Our goal is simple: to help you achieve the dream and vision you first had when you thought about starting a business. We're here to make growing your business less complicated. There are building blocks to build a sustainable business. We promise to seek them out and address them all. The Better Your Business Show starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the Better Your Business Show. Here we discuss your most important business challenges and provide you with practical solutions to help you better your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're an entrepreneur or a mamapreneur, you are definitely a person who has the drive, the motivation, and the tenacity to keep going in this entrepreneurial world. What you may not have are experts to talk to get step-by-step roadmap instructions as a GPS to make sure you get to your destination. So we wanted to make sure we brought that to you here on this show in this unplugged season.
Good morning. Good morning.
Shauna,
yes.
How are you this morning, young lady?
I am doing very well. Very well. Excited to see what we've got for everyone today.
I thoroughly enjoyed last week when we were on. It was very, very enlightening for me to hear all the perspectives going on. And I'm really excited about today with who we have today on Unplugged.
Natalie,
Yes.
who do we have? What do we have for them?
Well, first off, whether you're joining us live or watching the replay, make sure you go to pillar5.com and take your free business assessment so we can address any concerns or comments you have throughout the show. And part of talking about that process today, we are blessed with having JT Garber here this morning, which is very exciting. He is, what I love about his background, he is serial proclaimed entrepreneur. He's been an entrepreneur since he was 9 years old, and he has had a tremendous amount of experience in a lot of things. But something that really caught my eye, two things that really caught my eye about him was, first off, something that he took away from his experience of starting entrepreneurship at 9 years old is that he knew how to make money young. And I think that's a big deal, right? No matter what the situation, he knew he could make money. That's an awesome mindset to be able to develop when you're 9 years old, right? But the other thing that I really appreciate about him is, because of the success that he's had in business, having multiple businesses now, is, you know, just how passionate he is about helping entrepreneurs have sustainable business, how just on the same page he is with the crusade of helping entrepreneurs, again, have those sustainable businesses. So JT Garber in the house, if we could please bring him into the studio all the way from Pennsylvania. Good morning. Welcome. We're happy to have you here with us, JT.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This is amazing. I'm glad to be here this morning.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So tell me a little bit about your background. I know you started being an entrepreneur at 9 years old.
Well, you know, it kind of ruined me for life. So in a nutshell, here's the story. When I was 9 years old, you know, the new Air Jordans were incredible. And they also had come out with the Nike Triaxles at that time. And, you know, most folks go school shopping at the beginning of the year. And I said, Mom, Dad, this is what I want. And they said, JT, there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, that's great. You want something nice like that. But here's the scoop. Here's what we're putting towards shoes, and you're going to earn the rest. I was like, all right, how do I do that? My dad said, well, we live in a rural area. Go knock on some doors. See who wants their grass mowed, et cetera, et cetera. And you know what? I never looked back. Like, to me, I felt like I'd cracked the code if I just worked hard. I had the nicest mountain bikes and the coolest shoes. And you know what? I just felt like I knew something other people didn't. I didn't understand why more kids weren't doing it, but that's kind of how I got spoiled for life, you might say.
Guess it's a good thing they weren't, because then you got everything that you wanted.
This is true. There were only so many lawns to be mowed, and I got the lion's share of those. So.
You cornered the market there.
I did.
Let me ask you, JT, so from growing, especially from back then, can you recall, whether it was in childhood or either in young adulthood, young entrepreneurialism, whenever that was going on, when did you realize you wouldn't have to necessarily cut every lawn in order to get the shoes, that you could scale? What part did the sustainability come into you as an entrepreneur and its relativeness to your shoes and sneakers and whatever you wanted?
That's a great question, Tehran. It's painful to admit this, but I'll be honest, it didn't happen until my late 30s because I was so successful at just working my butt off to get what was important to me in life. There was a paradigm shift where I realized we all have the same amount of hours and seconds in a day. Nobody gets any more, nobody gets any less. And so you start to get a better picture of, trading time for money. And, as a 20 something, you just think you can conquer the world. You get into your mid 30s, creeping up in your 40s, you're like, this has a shelf life. This has a shelf life. And so I started to say, there's nothing I'm doing right now that's truly scalable. So that's the best way I can answer that. Really, it was just in the last 5 years or so.
So to all the 9-year-olds that are watching this show, that you do every Monday because they're just trying what could you have told your 9-year-old entrepreneur self? Because there are parents that are watching who are encouraging their children in the entrepreneurial spirit. But again, a lot of the times we wait until we have to even consider sustainability as a component that we're going to incorporate into our entrepreneurialism. What could you tell the 9-year-old JT's mowing lawns in regards to scaling his craft or his future?
Find a mentor. Find somebody that you look up to and soak up everything you can and just listen to them. Don't second guess them. Just listen. Because I didn't have a mentor. I'm a little hard-headed. I love recreating the wheel, and later in life figure it out. But find a mentor, find somebody to look up to, and ask them. Become an apprentice.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree.
So I know that obviously over the years you've had different businesses. You've been in many different industries, very diverse, and you've kind of planted your flag and settled down in, I guess, telecommunications. I know ACN, I guess, would be a telecommunications company, right? What made you choose that industry?
When I was first introduced to this, the funny thing is, the gentleman that we were sitting in a coffee shop and he showed me this, and it's somebody that had looked at a lot of business models. I said, man, this checks all the boxes. It really does. But I said, look, you're talking to the wrong guy. You're crazy in your head if you think I have time for this. But, it convinced me. And we have a saying in our industry, don't let your why become your why not. So if your why is that you want more time flexibility in your life because you're money rich, time poor, you have to make a decision there. And I made a decision. But what attracted me was we're dealing with essential services. Our business is essentially recession proof. I mean, we were joking before the show, when times get tough and people have to start cutting their budgets, when do you hear people talking about not paying their cell phone anymore? Am I right? When do you hear them talking about not paying their light bill? Even their TV bill. There are things that have really become utilities for us. Internet, natural gas, electricity, telecom, all of these things. So that's what I saw. Even in a down economy, people are going to continue to use these things. Nobody needs convinced. So that's my answer to that question.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah, I remember I used to do sales years ago. I used to train, build out call centers. And I remember when energy deregulation first popped off. Ooh. And it was like heaven on earth because it was a new campaign. They decided to start doing some stuff, and now you can call people and give them a benefit to something that they're doing already. And it kind of fizzled. It got popular and fizzled. Well, it didn't fizzle, I should say. A lot of people started participating. In the beginning, a lot of people weren't participating. And like with your utilities, what's amazing about that whole concept is, like you said, it's not something that you create. It's not something that you sell. People are paying for it anyway. And you are allowing people to have a residual based income just from basically being the middleman to situations that's going to happen anyway. Is my understanding of it thus far, unless you can correct me if that's not right.
So you're dead on, Tehran, and really, we're a smaller middleman. That's what's beautiful about what we do. I mean, we come in, and then Verizon released an internal study a number of years ago, and I'll try to make this as succinct as I can, but in a nutshell, what their internal numbers showed was that they were paying $300+ for each and every customer in the acquisition phase. In other words, when you compile all the numbers and take the bottom lines, it's over $300 in marketing efforts / employees / whatever to acquire one customer. Now it gets better. Everybody's switching service these days, trying to steal customers. They had another $300+ they had to spend per customer to retain that customer. And so when you take all of that out of the equation, a couple things happen. A, people like me are able to represent these iconic brands like Verizon and AT&T. I have the same rights to sell as the box store that a gentleman or a kind woman spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to open. I'm able to bring these to market at a more competitive price than the retail public, can get. And so we like to say there's a lot of meat on the bone. I personally represent these companies, and yeah, you're correct. We get paid residually. You talk about that mailbox money, or these days, that direct deposit shows up while you're sleeping.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I want to extract some data from you right now, only because I know of that. That's why I mentioned sales back when I was doing sales.
Yeah.
So let me just ask the direct question and just go ahead and cause the picture to get painted.
Okay.
So for people who are listening, saying, "Well, I can't wait to get into that from a sales perspective," that's a great campaign. I can't wait for them to drop that where to contact them at the show, wherever that is. How does someone what needs to happen? How do I say this without saying it? A campaign is a campaign. What makes a campaign successful? Like you said, the end users are the end users. But let's say 8 people got a hold of you after the show and wanted to do what it is you're doing. Does the fact that the industry is what the industry is guarantee that those 8 people are automatically going to be successful in this campaign?
No, absolutely not. I'm here to tell you.
What's the difference?
I'm here to tell you there's no substitute for hard work. The potential is absolutely enormous. It's scalable. It's that mailbox money. But here's the thing. You have to apply yourself just like anything else. There are no magic pills here. What's different is that, all right, Tehran, if I want to go start a mobile phone company, I need to have hundreds of millions of dollars, and I've got to break into the market. If I want to sell commodities independently on my own, if I want to start a company, again, I need millions of dollars to go purchase those commodities and bring those to market. Guess what? I can get paid the same way these big companies do by being this independent guy. It's literally, I own my own business. It's 1099 business. It's willable, sellable, transferable. I can go accumulate a portfolio of customers and get paid residually for the life of the customer. I have never in my life seen that. Let me ask everybody on this call, Natalie, Shauna, Tehran, does your cell phone company send you a check at the end of the month to say thanks for being a customer?
Absolutely not.
Do they give a flying rip if you refer your friends, with the exception of, yeah. So these companies see the value in what we're doing, and that's why they're so proud to work with our company that's been around for 30 years.
Awesome.
So how easy is it to get in? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. You know what? The buy-in is literally, it's just almost painful to say because, okay, did you ever set a beautiful piece of furniture out in the curb? It could be a brand new couch. And if you put free on that, it'll probably sit there for weeks.
Right.
Now, if you put $100 on it, then somebody's going to come and say, well, how about 10?
Right.
So the buy-in for us is literally hundreds of dollars. You become your own, essentially a franchisee. Like, you know what I mean? Just like if I had bought a Subway or a McDonald's, I get to fly the brand names. I get to offer the same prices or better, same incentives. It's hundreds of dollars in literally 10 minutes. And essentially what you and I become business partners. To become my customer, hey, that's great. I'll show you how to save money. Right now we have a product, and I'm not going to spend any time talking about products, but we have a very unique product. We've combined Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint into one SIM card. And so you literally carry around a phone that picks the best of those 3 networks at any time, and it's cheaper than anything out there. It's unlimited data. So anyways, these are the kinds of things that we bring to market. You don't have to do anything to become a customer. I'd love to talk to you about saving money, but that's not why I'm here today. I want to talk to people about this opportunity to become a juggernaut in this telecom and energy space, which Warren Buffett said we're about to see the greatest transfer of wealth we've ever seen because of this energy deregulation, which Tehran was talking about.
Right. So I guess it's all to get in position. No, I was just saying, let's get in position for what's soon to come. What are you saying, Natalie?
So JT, where was the shift for you in your career, where I know your passion right now is to help others have sustainable businesses? What happened for you in your career that made you shift or made that important to you, right? I think there's always a shift in us as entrepreneurs where is it, hey, I achieved my goal. I became financially independent. I went through the grind. It was a struggle. I don't want to have others do the same. What was your shift for you?
Well, if I can be vulnerable for a minute, I mean, I was facing some hard realities. Like, my mom and dad are in their 60s. They're not retired yet. My mom, she's got back problems. She spends all day on her feet, and it pained me. My dad, he's a software engineer. He's great at it, but that's not what he was made for in life. And so I had some really important burning desires in my life, and I realized that I had attained what I at one time considered to be a high level success. You know what I mean? I worked from home. I had all the great vacation, the big benefits package, but at the end of the day, like, I couldn't retire my parents, and that just burned in my soul. And so I realized, like, it was one of those moments where it's painful. And it's like, the things that are truly important to me in my life, if I continue to trade time for money, great. Maybe I'll continue to drive the Benz and have a nice house, but I can't help my parents. So what am I really doing here? That was the shift.
So JT, from your experience, what does it take to build a business? What are business owners missing?
Well, number one, I think that new business owners, so there's a difference. Boy, how do I say this right? Some people have a great product idea. They have an amazing idea, but here's the thing. Having a great product idea doesn't make you a good business owner. And so I think, it's this vulnerability piece that everybody's afraid of, including me sometimes. It's hard to be willing to ask the questions. You have to be coachable, but B, it's knowing what questions to ask. That's incredibly difficult. If you have a blind spot, here's the thing about blind spots. We usually don't know we have them.
Right.
So how do you know who to talk to? How do you even know where to start? And again, if you don't have a mentor, you're even further away from that goal of being able to ask intelligent, relevant questions to grow.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. I'm kind of just downloading that right now. Like, it's almost like, and from a company perspective, we're always building a team. It's like a constant, that's our job. We're constantly trying to build resources, kind of like in life. I think that's what we do in life, from not a business, from a social perspective. I think we just do it from a social, it's emotional resources, which is why we get friends. I like you. Well, no, you like the way I make you feel. That, where it's just an internal fortification in life naturally. So, but if we had the same, as I'm listening to you, it's like if we had the same mind frame towards mentors, I'm constantly trying to find mentors, people I can ask questions to, versus people I can get in the car with, have conversations with, so I can look smart or wise or whatever. I'm trying to find people I can sit quiet during the time they're talking around and really download. That makes a big, big difference.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying, Aaron. And this is one of my core life pillars, if you will. We are the product of the 5 people we spend the most time with.
Indeed.
Socially, emotionally, and financially. And so, as this gets into a subject matter, which I don't want to go too far down into, but, as an artist, I was a portrait artist, and I learned a while back, and this was hard. I had to saddle up to some other portrait artists so I could rob and duplicate. I didn't necessarily want to become exactly who they were, but I wanted to take the pieces that I knew would make me a better artist. And so, same exact thing I learned much later in life about business. Rob and duplicate. Emulate what you see as successful in other people's lives and businesses. And so I love what you just said there, Tehran. Like, I want to be the quiet guy, because if I'm talking, that's the booby prize. That's like, oh yeah, I'm big shot. But if I'm quiet, that means I'm in the presence of some people that know a whole lot more than me, and I get to learn. And it's so that, like, that's your wealth. That's your wealth right there. It's being in those relationships.
Indeed. I agree. I'm sorry. That's weird. Sometimes the communication comes in the pause, in the silence, I guess. But yeah, I really, really love Love what you got going, and really it's just the why behind it. Let me ask you that, so I don't assume anything. Why? We do what we do because we don't want small business owners to fail. I know it wasn't my tenacity, it wasn't my skill set, it wasn't my intellect, it wasn't my education, it wasn't my drive, it wasn't none of those things that stopped me from progressing. I got all of those things on lock. What I don't have or didn't have was the right people around me, nothing but mentors, only people I could learn from, a rock solid focus and laser-like focus with a plan a track that I was going to be on for a long amount of time. I didn't have that. So I think that there are a lot of people more talented, more brilliant, more eager, more tenacious than me who may not have those components around them. And their life would absolutely change if they just did. I think it was Einstein who said, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a wall, it'll spend its life thinking it's stupid. I think that's what we do. We base ourselves off of other people that we may project as successful or whatever versus pursuing our passions. And then kind of we dumb ourselves down and but when you get the right mentors around you, no matter what you do, there's something kind of special about it. No matter how you wear your hair, there's something kind of special about it. No matter how your dialect is something original and unique about it versus criticizing everything about it. You can build a person up or break a person down. And I think our job is to build up, is to build each other in order to build up everybody collectively that's trying to become sustainable entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And Tehran, you get in some really interesting subject matter there. One thing that we're really big on in our business, really in all of my businesses, what you're really touching on right now is personal development. And, if you're not working on you at all times, working on you takes a couple different forms, but let's be honest, if our self-talk is not right, if our belief is not there, if our purpose is not, and purpose comes from belief, those two things are so intertwined. I've read this in several books. You start with the end in mind. If you don't start trying to draw your map from where you are, you pick the finish point and then you fill in the middle. And if you can't do that, but you can't do that if you're not surrounding yourself with those people and working on yourself relentlessly. And, I know law of attraction is kind of a buzzword, but let's be honest, we all see it at play. People that just have a strong belief and a passion. Did you ever notice those are the people that get to where they're going versus the one that's just trying to figure it out and they don't have that burning desire? Like you said, Tehran, you had everything else on lock and it was about surrounding yourself. And that's me too. I wanted to believe, listen, intelligence and success are not mutually inclusive.
Absolutely.
Right.
They're not mutually inclusive. We used to say the A students work for the B students and the C students work for the B students work for the government. The A's work for the C's and the B's work for the government. And so that creativity, what's creativity? It's passion, it's desire. So to me, like you just really uncorked the dam there. Like you touched on all these subject matters, you know what I mean, in a couple sentences, which is awesome.
I'm around some juggernauts, champion. Trust me, everybody. Amazing juggernauts, man. I'm blown away all the time.
The power of association is everything, right?
Absolutely.
And so many times in entrepreneurship or in organizations like ACN, you'll hear people say, take them out to lunch, grab a cup of coffee, pick their brain. And I'm not saying that there isn't some wisdom in that, but who cares if I go meet with you one time in 4 months, JT? That's not building a relationship and an association with you, right? And that's part of where it takes a long time in that trajectory. So what would be some feedback that you'd have for people in that way? How can you build those relationships quickly? I had a mentor that always would say, if you want to change your income, change your zip code. And I believe that with everything in me. If you look at my trajectory, you can see my zip code, right? That was part of it because I knew that was the fastest way I was going to change those associations by being in those relationships. I wasn't just popping by the neighborhood once in a while. So can you elaborate that on a little bit, especially I think in your industry, it's probably common.
Yeah. So, a couple things come to mind, don't lean in for the kiss on the first date. and also understand that in any real relationship, there's a lot more than 3 bases. I'm here to tell you,
Yeah.
And, humility is such a big part of this because we have our own ideas and listen, when somebody talks to us and they're presenting something different, like just that ability to don't react. Like let that, Tehran said it great there. Sometimes the answer's in the silence. Like let that marinate with everything else. And to your point, it's about immersion. Natalie, you talked about immersion, and I believe it was Zig Ziglar that said, the way to get everything you want in life is to help everybody get everything they want in life. And so, the three of you right now are touching on a point that's really dear to me. Make meaningful relationships with people and don't have an agenda.
Right.
Don't have an agenda.
Right.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Mm.
Yeah.
And let's face it, like I think most of us, probably everybody on this call today, but most of us are vibe people. Like, do you ever walk in a room, you're like, ooh, you get a vibe and you don't know a thing about the person. And the point of me bringing this up is, listen, we can spot phony from 10 miles away.
Right.
And if you're just pitching somebody, again, don't lean in for the kiss on the first date. Be an authentic person. And here's the thing, it ties back in. You can't be an authentic person if you don't know who you are and where you're going.
Mm. Indeed. Absolutely. Good stuff. Is this about business or interpersonal growth?
Right, and that's a fun.
Is there a difference?
Is there a difference?
I mean, Dr. Natalie Forrest is here with us today. And she says relationships is the most important currency in life and business, for sure. That's right. Because my Gucci's aren't showing up to my final services, right? My funeral, my celebration of life, my Gucci's aren't showing up, but hopefully there's a lot of people that show up for me, right? So thank you, Dr. Natalie, for being here with us. So
I remember just real quick, Natalie Forrest, it was maybe 2 years ago, the first time I ever heard that phrase, relational currency. I was posting, I was tagging on every tag. It was a conference they were at, and they brought that back to the table, and I heard that, and it just resonated like, wow, relational currency. I want to sit with that for a minute. Like, how valuable are you? Just imagine if you were a coin. What's your value when you know what's valuable to you from a human perspective?
Ooh.
Now, how heavy is your bullion, But yeah, I like that. That stayed with me from then on, and will always stay with me. Relational currency. I love that.
Dr. Natalie, she remembers Tehran.
Yeah. Hey, yes, indeed. Awesome.
Awesome. All right, you guys, we're going to go into a quick break. We have JT Garber here with us this morning. It's been an honor. We're going to go to a quick break. We're going to be coming back with Todd Social as well, marketing guru. So we'll see you. Go fill up your cup of coffee, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
A wise man once asked, what if starting a business was like jumping out of a plane? And like 76% of businesses, what if 76% of parachutes failed before you reached the destination? What about those of you who have already jumped? Well, you may still have time to check your business. Pillar5.com, where businesses get it right. Our goal is simple, to help you achieve the dream and vision you first had when you thought about starting a business. We're here to make growing your business less complicated. There are building blocks to build a sustainable business. We promise to seek them out and address them all. The Better Your Business Show starts now.
And we're back. Welcome back, everyone. And we also have Todd Social in the house. Welcome, Todd. Welcome to the show this morning. We're happy you're here. We have JT Garber, Shannon Mavis, and we are talking about how to have a sustainable business. JT Garber with ACN. And welcome to the show, Todd.
Pleasure to be here. Ready to go.
Good morning.
Awesome. So, JT, I know you went through and took your assessment on Pillar 5. I'd love just some feedback on your experience with that.
I'm just going to be brutally honest and vulnerable here for a second. It was painful, and in a good way. We've talked a lot about blind spots this morning, and as business owners, we like to think that we've got it all under control, and it's easy to focus on the areas where we're very strong. And it's very easy to miss the areas where you're not. And, even for those of us that have mentors, strong people in our corner that are coaching us, they're human beings too, and they want to encourage us. And so it's really easy to focus on where they're kind of clapping us on the back because our idea is incredible, and they can kind of focus on, these areas too. And one of the things I liked about Pillar 5 was that, we talked about this earlier in the show today, or perhaps it was in coffee time, but, sometimes you don't know the questions to ask, and therefore your mentors, your really strong coaches, they don't always know the answers to give because number one, they're going to respect you as a person. They're not going to trample over you and tell you how to do things,
Right.
but also they're not in your position. They don't know what you're processing through all your senses every day. They don't know what your thought processes are. And so if you're not asking those questions, and if you don't know the questions to ask, there's only so much they can do for you. And so Pillar 5 was pretty powerful. It's objective. And, I think Shauna and Natalie and I were talking earlier about how we tend to filter things, all of us as human beings. Like I was talking about, my accountant, sometimes he might give me some advice, and he's an incredible guy. He's extremely creative, especially as far as accountants go. But once in a while, it's like, stay in your lane, John. Let me handle this stuff. So we kind of filter things when it's another human being. But now there's this interface that asks a long series of very detailed, objective, goal-oriented questions to assess. And it pumps out a result after, whatever your algorithm is that Pillar 5 has, there it is. And it's objective. And it's like, okay, there's no personal bias here. And when I say it's painful, that's only a good thing, by the way. There's no negative connotation there. What that means is like change is uncomfortable, and realizing that we miss things. Let's be honest, none of us want to think that. So that, I'm new to Pillar 5. That's my Cliff Notes introductory feeling of what I experienced there.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I thought for sure, especially, you've been being an entrepreneur since you were 9. I started at 13. There just comes this mindset of stick me anywhere, I'm going to make money, right? And so when you take the assessment, it's like, okay, well, stick me anywhere I can make money, but is that a sustainable business, right? And it's feedback based on the data that we put in ourselves. So there's just no denying it. And I think that's kind of what the painful part is you just got all right, naked and transparent. It's like, whoa, I don't know if I liked 100% of where I saw in the mirror right now, but again, it's an unbiased feedback that shows us where we need to shift to be sustainable. And what I loved when I got the results back from mine is I feel like it really stretched my vision because of that, right?
Yes.
And so that was part of what was so exciting to me, because it was literally just paint by numbers. And if I know exactly where I'm going, then it's like, I can go anywhere. What's next? Where do I want to go to next, right? And so even though, like I said, it's painful, it's great to have that feedback to see where we can shift.
100%.
I think the blind spots, you talked about that, and it does a great job of exposing those, of letting like you said, until you know the questions you need to ask, and this Pillar 5, as you're going through, it shows you where you're missing the mark or where you might have missed the mark. And then I can go to one of my advisors, one of my mentors, and ask them those specific questions that will help me build that sustainable business. That was my experience of it. It showed me what I needed to get help on in order to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Waiting for Todd to speak.
I know.
I've been waiting to meet this gentleman.
We're ready. Okay, so here it goes. what Pillar 5 does, which is essentially in reference to the algorithm, how you were talking about, JT, is this. It helps you understand that things like marketing are not just about ROI, it's about ROR, the return on relationships. And it's a good evaluator for you to be able to say, you might tell yourself, or your coach might tell yourself, or your marketer might tell you, oh, you've progressed this far, right? But essentially what Pillar 5 does is helps you to see, oh, you maybe have progressed over here, but you got to do some work over here. So it removes that blind spot. A lot of people will hide in whatever they're strongest at. If you're strongest in marketing, you'll hide behind that. If you're strongest in business building, you'll hide behind that. It gives you a clear playing field so you can see, okay, I've got my construction over here, probably about 75%, but I got like 30% here only done, and I really have to work on this. So essentially, that's what we're trying to do, is say, okay, even though I love to do marketing for people and I'm passionate about it, I love to give them creative lanes, I have to tell a lot of people to stop, focus on these other things before they even get started over here, essentially. And that's what Pillar 5 does. It says, stop, hold on a second. You might be doing slightly well, but your infrastructure shows that you got some work to do. And if you really want to climb to the next level, because I hear this from people all the time, I want to get to the next level. Well, the next level is balance. It's not growth. To me, is balance. Scale is about balance. So if you don't create that balance, and what you said earlier, about humility, if you don't have the humility to recognize that balance that you need, then you'll continue to go down that rabbit hole. And this is the reason why businesses will go a few years before they, hit a wall. I.e., say like a restaurant that opens up. Everybody's hot and bothered about that about that restaurant, that first year, that first week, that food truck. Man, I love that food truck. Are they still talking about it 2 years later? Are they still looking for it? Is that food truck even still relevant? Are they managing their books correctly? Because, finance, well, actually, my business coach has told this to me, and I think about it a lot, and I think about Natalie when I think about this too. Finance is romance. If you do not have a relationship with your finances, then you have no romance in your life, meaning that you literally love what you do, but you're not in love.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're in love with what you do, then your relationship with your finances will grow, because you'll find balance in the areas that you're missing out on. So this is why infrastructure is important. This is why, marketing is important. It's a tool, but it's not the fuel. Pillar 5 provides all the elements for the fuel so you can actually gas yourself up correctly and grow.
Preach,
and
Todd,
what I
preach.
love about that, and what I love about that too, it is allows us to be present in the moments that we're in, right? Because I know when I first started being an entrepreneur, I'd be at the office, but I'm thinking about laundry that has to be done, lunches that have to be made. Then I'm at home, and instead of being present with my family, I'm thinking about, I need to follow up with this person. I should have faxed over this paperwork, right? But it allows us to have that balance, which I love, Todd, because we've become the society where it's like, hey, if you're not grinding it out 6 days a week, you just don't want it bad enough, right?
Yeah.
And that's just couldn't be further from the truth, right? But we need to be able to enjoy life, enjoy the fruits of our labor and what we're working for.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's totally true. And that's the thing, is like, I get lost so many times when I see people that are trying to grow and they feel like they're stuck. And we know, as different entrepreneurs in different lanes, we know, people know where they're at. If it's their credit, that's the dirty little secret. If it's their credit, they really ain't gonna talk about that. That's the last thing they're gonna bring up, right? But when you have a balance in what you do, so even when I'm doing marketing people, I have to do like predictive analysis. I have to do gauging, their budget, things that aren't necessarily comfortable for me, but it's essential to realize if they're the right customer for me. Like the money talk, especially from the marketing side, is the worst talk, because it's like everybody wants to market, but they don't understand the structure of a budget. which means they didn't actually focus on their finances, or they didn't focus on infrastructure. These are things that people pass by and can be, in society's terms, successful, by whoever's standards, but not necessarily a standard of actually business. So it's good to have, the balance of the foundation in place before you move forward. But even if you're existing, it's still good to go back and have a self audit. Like we talk about self-care and self-love, you should have a self audit of your business and really ask yourself, do you have the balance that you need to exceed or meet the goals that you project for yourself?
What's so great about, everybody, I've heard so many great points, and I think we touched, I don't think this was during the live show, but perhaps during coffee time. You're talking about achieving balance, and all of us here, we're talking about sustainability, and what I mean? I was talking earlier about, and I've really been on this kick lately about, as an entrepreneur, we call ourselves multi-business owners, but if you're not achieving sustainability, which that's what Pillar 5 is all about, it's about creating sustainability. Guess what? You own a job.
Yeah.
You own a job. If you're not building something that's scalable and sustainable, you own a job. And Todd, everything you just said speaks directly to that point for me. Because if you're out of balance, you're not creating scalability or sustainability, and you will continue to be the guy that wears every hat, chief cook and bottle washer. That's not a business. That means you're self-employed.
We've had a lot of experts come on the show and talk about that, where you're owning a job. So what are some of the ways, JT, that you see that they can avoid that? What are some of the things that you've done to make sure that you don't fall into that trap?
Question.
Well, that is a great question. I'm not even sure where to start, but I think it starts with, having the end in mind. So, and that means a couple things. What is it number one, you have to identify your passion. What is it you're passionate about? Is your business about what you're passionate about, but also not just in terms of business, like what are your life goals? Is it to retire your parents? Is it to put your nieces and nephews through college? Is there a charity that's a burning desire for you? Is there a social need that you want to fill? And so then you look at what's it take to accomplish that? And so going back to 9-year-old self, my grandfather had a long yard, and when I mowed his yard, it was a push mower, and I would be like, and he said, JT, can I show you something? You want a little trick? And I said, sure. What's that? Because Pap liked straight lines in his grass. And he said, when you're pushing the mower across the yard, pick a point at the end of the yard and stare at it and walk towards it, and don't look anywhere else. Wow. So then I take that to 42-year-old JT. And again, that's what I mean. Talk about building something sustainable. It draws together all the points. Start with the end in mind, identify your passion, be in touch with your why, and surround yourself with people that are more successful than you are.
I love that. That's great advice.
And that is the power of focus.
Yeah. And yeah. So anyways, I don't want to ramble too much, but I just love the synergy here. Everybody is adding points to this that really point to the same thing at the end. It's great to be self-employed, but I'll drop another buzzword here: gig economy. When you talk about how our culture and our society and business environment is changing, I talked a little about gig economy earlier. Like Todd, Shauna, I know you guys could jump right in on that train. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Todd?
The gig economy?
Yeah.
Well, let me just say that, it's like the economy has to be, you're either self-driven or you're driving yourself. Now, what I mean by that is you're self-driven by things that are economic in nature and opportunities. So I'll always refer to social as a way to explain this. So everybody says, okay, social media is the way to go, or social media ads are the way to go, right? But that's what is self-driving. But are you driving yourself? Meaning that, are you now utilizing social media because you measure your metrics and found balance in the rest of your business that it makes sense? And when I'm saying driving yourself, that doesn't mean that you're driving your conversation. That means that you're driving the decisions that the people will actually make on the other side. Now, how does this relate to business? Okay. We always speak about what we want to sell or what we want to offer. We have to speak in a way of what people want to receive. So when we talk about, the sphere of influence around us, do we have the sphere of influence around us? So if we say pillar 5 is our sphere of influence, do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the marketing? Do we have every tenet that we need to actually grow in a direction? Well, the problem with the gig economy, it tells you to break down and become niche. Do this part of the time, not the full time. Like for instance, a lot of people may say ACN is just my gig, right? And I'm probably sure you've experienced this, JT, with some people in your team, right? Why is it your gig when it could be actually your solution? Just like I tell people, instead of market because it's your gig, make it your solution. If you make it your solution, then what you do well is just amplified now. So you see people that are successful, and we could say different names, because I was actually amazed by this when I was in a meeting. I was on a session that I was speaking at a few weeks ago, and Mark Victor Hansen was on there. I love Chicken Soup for the Soul. That's my jam, right? I'm listening to Mark Victor Hansen speak because I've read his books, but I've never heard him. Now, what I heard in that session was Mark Victor Hansen, he doesn't write his books as much as he does other things that are actually more important to him. But the book has provided him with the platform to do the other things that are actually more important to him. So essentially, he found a tool, a resource that was a lane. He found balance in it. He created structure in it. And he grew to a point where he could go to what he's actually interested in. So a lot of people may not hear that. And this is the reason why Pillar 5 is so near and dear to my heart, because if you find that in the beginning versus year 3 or year 7, imagine what your life will be like. Then you can be your own Mark Victor Hansen. You could, instead of saying ACN is a gig, ACN is my lane. Now that's a different way of manifesting energy towards it, because that happens in social media. People say, okay, I just want to get on social media a little bit. I just want to get on LinkedIn, do LinkedIn just a little bit, right?
Yeah. And, we say that, Todd, what you're saying is so great. And like, for me, it feeds a couple points. So number one, you get into ACN, my opportunity, for instance, you don't have a boss, you're a business owner, like you call the shots. But here's the thing. We say this all the time. If you treat it like a hobby, you're going to get paid like it's a hobby.
Right.
Okay. But doubling back to the gig economy thing, they flashed up the definition for it there, which was great. And it is, characterized by short-term jobs. Here's the intangible part of gig economy when we talk about that as it relates to our discussion this morning. In a gig economy, you can take something that's a gig, and because now more than ever, I mean, look at us. We're sitting on a show here. We didn't have to negotiate with the local TV station to do that.
Yep.
I don't have to have millions of dollars to sell AT&T services. If you have something you're passionate about, now more than ever, you can publish your own books. You can narrate your own books. You can have podcasts and streaming shows. And so something that, now more than ever, you can take your gig into something scalable, which again, this is how Carlton and I met. It's that intersection of Pillar 5 and what that shows you. Like, do you own your job or do you own a business? But gig economy, like when I talk about gig economy, I'm not necessarily suggesting like do a whole bunch of jobs. It's when you find that thing you're passionate about and you have the end in mind. And now more than ever, this great shift of wealth is about to occur, because everyday Joes and Janes can scale that dream. 40 years ago, that wasn't the case. If you didn't have a lot of capital, you didn't come into generational wealth, and if you weren't part of a bigger company, like, let's be honest, your options were much more limited. And now more than ever, we've transcended to a degree, the different classes. So anyway, I just wanted to, that was kind of burning in me, like gig economy is that, being able to get on a show like today and speak about something that burns within you and scale that. And it ties in with everything Todd was saying there. So I had to speak it.
Gig economy, your stocks, it's your investment, right? If you think about it, if you lay out every gig, like if you had 5 gigs, think about it this way, and I'll let Shannon kind of continue on with this. if you thought about gigs the same way people thought about startups, meaning like each gig is a potential startup for you, it's your investment. And if you looked at your finances across the board into your investment into your gigs, you're investing in yourself. Then those gigs actually no longer become gigs; they become your investment. But it's the language that we have to use to say, is it just a gig, just something we're doing, or is it my investment in myself? Because, I see the value in having multiple gigs until you find your fruit or find your end. Because if your end is, oh, I want to, take care of my family, or I want to be on the beach, or, I want to work for my, self, and not have a boss, then the gigs allow you to, again, cipher, be humble, find balance, and then strategically go out and execute.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shana.
Oh no, that was kind of the point I was going to make. It's when we talked about this last week, it's a mindset. It's the way that you really think about that, because I know there are a lot of people out there who do not want to work for someone else, and this gives them the opportunity. There are so many different ways, and and for those of us who are looking at it just as a side hustle, there are some people who are taking it to the next level because of the way that they're looking at it, because they're saying, I don't want it. I'd much prefer to, drive people around, and that gives them the opportunity to make relationships, to build those relationships, to make connections, to talk to different people. They thrive in that. And so I'm thankful that we have this option, that this is the way that the world is going, because it offers other people opportunities where they wouldn't have any. They can grow and learn and be more and do more, but it is looking at it as an investment in themselves. So yeah, Todd, I completely agree with that.
JT, before we start wrapping it up here, how can people find you? How can people hear more about ACN and your services? How can people find you? They're like, who is this guy? Man, he brought some good stuff today. I like this, right? Business. How can I learn more about it? How can I learn more about JT?
Honestly, you can flash my phone number up there, my email address. I don't care.
Look, you're on every social media platform, right?
Look, I'll talk to anybody, because, but no, seriously, get in touch with me through the show. And here's the thing. I can tell you, somebody that's beat his head against the wall trying to reinvent the wheel. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a fan of that. I'm just stubborn like that. But here's what I loved. I didn't have to have generational wealth to start any of these companies, but I get to now represent these companies as if I am them. Residual, look, I was either a bad student, or I skipped school that day, or they didn't teach it. But here's what I'm going to tell you. They didn't teach me about residual income when I was in school. So maybe I was asleep. Okay. I learned how to balance my checkbook, and I learned about debits and credits. And then I kind of learned about it later in life. But look, it's about getting paid when you sleep. It's about taking a gig into something that creates generational wealth. And more than ever, there was a question earlier, how's this going to impact our business ecosystem today? I know we're running out of time, but here's the thing. We're going to see an hourglass shape in our society in the wealth classes, because more than ever, this trend is not going away. If you're an employee and that's all you are, there's nothing wrong with being an employee. I thank God for employees. I've been an employee. But here's the thing. It's going to be harder than ever to achieve your life goals as an employee if that's your only stream of income. And my heart bleeds for that stuff, for people to understand that. So anyways, this has been fantastic.
I love it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, JT. It's been an honor just to have you here with us this morning, and to hear more about your passion for helping entrepreneurs, your wisdom this morning. We just thank you so much. And I just love what you left us with, because it's so true. Yes.
Yes.
That's right. But it's so true. And we're grateful to have people like you that are on this crusaded mission with us to help people have sustainable businesses. And you're right, because it is going to be challenging if we don't learn different ways of bringing in income. So JT Garber with ACN. And quickly, we're going to go around. Todd, we'll start with you. What were some takeaways that you've had from this morning's show?
I think, the biggest takeaway is that there are opportunities out there for everyone. And it really actually starts with humility. to find balance. I mean, JT, gave a lot of gems, especially in a world where we are connected. There's opportunities that are out there. You have to be willing to take advantage of them, but it starts with being humble and then seeking that balance. And that to me is essential and key towards your growth.
How about you, Shanna?
Humility is a big thing. I've got tons of stories where, that was not the way that I thought about things at all, but I think the biggest thing was focus. When JT was talking about how his grandfather said, pick a point and, go for that. And it just reminded me of when I was getting my motorcycle license. That's the same thing they suggested I know. I know a lot of people don't know that about me, but what they talked about was, if where your gaze is, the bike is going to follow. And so if you're constantly looking, left and right, your bike is going to go that way. And so it was challenging for me because, there's that fear, but the adrenaline that's there. But it was like, as soon as I focused, I got it. It was just like I could go around it. And I mean, admittedly around in a circle. But, I did it and passed. So that focus is key for, a lot of us as humans, as entrepreneurs. It's vital. So, love it.
Tehran?
I liked a lot of stuff. I liked it all. This is that juggernaut environment that you can just stay there and just fly on the wall, just write down notes, hit record, and prepare, to move forward. But one thing that I did like, I say stuck with me was when JT was talking about the utility aspect of it. What I liked about the utility is what made him so excited about it. The fact that it was passive income, the fact that you don't have to try to get anybody to do it, the fact that it's going to happen continually. There was a sense of sustainability in it, in the activity. It wasn't just make a lot of money, like make a lot of smart money for the sake of the end in mind when you begin. So typically you don't even have that opportunity when you go to get a quote unquote job. But like Todd said, your gig can be your solution. Like Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. The objects are exactly the same, but the way you look at them now are different. And I think the way JT looks at things is why he's now an advocate for something that brings a sense of sustainability, even as an employee, even as a person that's working and putting work in to get a result. It just has the same elements to it that's required, I guess, to even make sense, which is sustainability. Long version. That's long version.
Anything for you, JT?
Honestly, I just want to take a minute and edify you all as a team. You're an anointed team, and I feel like I could call any one of you and talk for hours. When Carlton and I first connected, it was instant. Real recognizes real, and clearly he was a person of substance. And each one of you that has spoken this morning, you're anointed. You're people of substance, and so. I feel like you guys are an extension of my tribe. I haven't known you very long, but I absolutely love this and I love what you're doing. I support you. And it was a real privilege to be here conversating with you this morning. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
Yes, right back at you, JT. It's been a pleasure for sure. And I would have to say one of my biggest takeaways was your hourglass analogy. I love that because I know for me, that's something that's so dear to my heart being in the financial services industry. And I hope that that's the trajectory of what happens when we have more people having sustainable businesses, having financial independence, having financial peace of mind and being able to live their life on their terms. So the Better Your Business Show, go to pillar5.com, get your assessment, see where you need to make a change in your business and better your business today. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great one.
Bye.